Alright, we're going to do the second half of the 8C notes, and nothing will be as long as those last two questions we finished up the first part with. You're going to be given different equations where you just have to plug in values, and then you just have to solve for the missing value. Now, here's a sample one here. We have the V equals 3.5 times the square root of H. V is the number of kilometers to the horizon, and H is how high you are in meters. So, how far can you see to the horizon through an airplane window at the height of 12,000 feet? So, the height is 12,000, so H is 12. So I just do V equals 3.5 times the square root of 12,000. So, I'm going to do that on my calculator, and I get V equals 383.4057903. Now it says here, I added it in the end here, round to the nearest meter. So that's the nearest whole number. So the Verizon is 383 kilometers away. Okay, so you really just plug it in. Now this next question, I'm going to be using the exact same formula, except this time a steeplejack can see 49 kilometers to the horizon. What is the altitude of the steeplejack? So this time I'm given the V. So V equals 3.5 times the square root of H because I'm looking for the height. So I have to divide each side by 3.5, and I get 14 equals the square root of H. Well, what's the opposite of square rooting? Well, I'm going to square each side. So I get 196 meters is equal to the height. Okay, so again, those two word problems are very easy. There's going to be different formulas. You just plug in numbers in, and you just got to make sure you put them in the right spot, and then solve for what's missing. Pythagorean theorem is extremely similar. We're going to have A, B, and C. Now, if you remember, draw my little right triangle here. The legs are A and B, and they can be interchangeable, but C is always the hypotenuse, and C is always going to be the longest of the three. So now, we're given A equals 6, B equals 7. So I put it into the equation. I get 6 squared plus 7 squared equals C squared. Now, please let the calculator do all this. You can do this in one step. So 85 equals C squared. I square root each side. Now, are there any perfect squares in 85 that I can pull out? I really don't think so. There's nothing in there. So the exact value, and this is where I'm going to leave it in the square root or radical form, so it's the square root of 85. Now remember, this next one, the approximate value, we want to go to 3 decimals, so I got to type in the calculator. Just as a reminder, if you have the TI-30X Multiview, you have to type 85 and then type the decimal place to get a decimal. If you don't, you're just going to get the square root of 85. So when I type it in, I get 9.21954, and there is more, but I only want 3 decimals, so I look at the 9 here. Oh, and I have the annoying rounding, don't I? There's a 5 here, so I got to round that 9 up, but you can't round a 9 up, so then I got to put the 1 there, round that up to a 2. So it's really 9.220. And that's rounded to the nearest thousandth or 3 decimals. Alrighty. Now, I know this doesn't say Pythagorean theorem, but this is another Pythagorean theorem question. So we have an HD TV whose screen measures 55 inches diagonally. Now, televisions are usually in rectangular form here. So it gave me the diagonally, so this is 55 inches, height of 27 inches, and we're looking for the width. So now I can make this A or B, or I'll make it A. It just doesn't matter, because my hypotenuse is definitely 55. So I have A squared plus 27 squared equals 55 squared. So to solve for A squared, I'm going to subtract 27 squared from each side. Now I can just literally type this 55 squared minus 27 into my calculator and get 2296 equals a squared. If I work it out, I get 3025, I get 729, and if I subtract, I should get the same answer. But again, let the calculator do the hard work on this. So to get a, I got to do the square root of each side. So I get a equals, and then I got to do the square root of 2296, and I get 47.9165. Now it says round to the nearest hundredth, so that means I need 2 decimals. So a equals 47.92 inches in this case. Alrighty, so that's that one. Again, that's not too bad of one. Again, it's Pythagorean theorem. And this is got to be one of the weirdest questions. The numbers get crazy big on this. They give you the conversion 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. What this means is I have a 2-mile bridge. So if I go all the way across here, there's the start and finish to my bridge. Now it's 2 miles long, so that means I need to do 2 times 5,208. So that means my whole bridge is 10,560 feet. Now half of it is 5,280 feet. Now it expands 2 feet in length. And so what that means is there's going to be a little bulge in the bridge. So it's going to buckle up just a little bit here. And then I'm going to draw this line here. Now, if it expands 2 feet in length, there's going to be 1 foot on this side and another foot on this side because it's going to expand equally. So if this is 5,280 expands 1 foot, it's 5,281. And so what I'm looking for, let's say this is b here. So I'm looking for b squared now, or I'm missing the height or the b value. So I get 5280 squared plus b squared equals 5281 squared. Crazy numbers. So minus 5280 squared minus 5280 squared. So I get b squared equals 10,561. So I'll do the square root of each side. Now, what's great about this question, it will say the exact value of c, and it says now I know it doesn't say it here, but do not simplify radical. Normally we have to look for perfect squares that go into this, but the numbers are so gigantic on this, they don't require this. So my answer is just the square root of 10,561. Now this next one wants it rounded to 3 decimals. So I have to type it in the calculator. And if I type in the square root of 10561, I get 102.76672661. Now I only need 3 decimal places, so I went way too far. 1, 2, that's the nearest thousandths there. There's a 7 next to it, so it's really 102.767. Alrighty, and so that's that question. The number's a little ridiculous. It's a little pattern here, and thank goodness for the calculator. So that's really the worst of the word problems right there. Now we're going to learn the I. Whenever we have a square root of negative numbers here, we can bring in I, and that's I is equal to the square root of negative 1. So now, with 27, I want to break this up. So I'm going to break this up in the square root here. Now I know 9 goes into 27, so I'm going to write 9 times 3 times negative 1. The square root of 9 comes out as a 3. The square root of negative 1 comes out as an I. 3 is a bad guy, so it just stays in there. Now, I'm a proponent of writing the I in front of the radical. It's less typing errors. The book and the computer will like to do 3, radical 3, and then put the I here. Now, you just have to make sure that the I is not under the square root. Okay, that is the key thing here. Don't put it under the square root. Okay, either one of these answers works, so it really depends on which one you like. I find less mistakes of writing the I out front, because when I put it behind, sometimes I'll accidentally extend my square root, and then I'll be wrong. So just be careful. So this next one here, well, square root of 196 times negative 1. I believe 196 is the perfect square. It is, so this is just 14i. All right, my next one here, square root of negative 20. So, and I have a negative out front, so I got to make sure I carry that. So it's a negative square root. Now 4 is a good guy, 5 is a bad guy, and then I have negative 1. So it's negative. Well, the square root of 4 is just 2. The square root of negative 1 is I. Then I have the square root of 5 right there. Now please notice it's a double negative here, but it's still negative. Because remember, the I is where the square root of negative 1 goes. Okay? Alrighty, our next question, we're almost done. This is the last question, I believe. It's using just the distance formula, and I rewrote it down here for you so it's a little bit easier to do. And if you remember, it's very similar to finding slope. This is x1, y1. This is x2, y2. And you just put it into the equation. So it's going to be the square root. X2 is 4. X1 is negative 2. I'm going to square it. Plus y2 is negative 1 minus 1 squared. Extend that out a little bit. And again, please use your calculator on here. I'm going to quickly do this in my head. That's really plus 2. 6 squared is 36. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. So I get this equals the square root of 40. Now the square root of 40, I can simplify this, because this is really 4 times 10, isn't it? So this is 2 square root 10. So my exact answer, that's with radicals, is 2 square root of 10. If I use my calculator to get this out, it's 6.32455. Round to the nearest hundredth. That means I need 2 decimals. So it's 6.32. Alrighty, and that's the last question in. So another 12-minute video for 8C. It was very good timing here. And that's the end of Unit 8.